Hello and welcome everyone to this season finale of Water Underground Talks. My name is Aidan Martin, and usually I'm behind the camera, but today we're going to turn it around on these two. So I'm sitting here with Tom Gleason and Viviana Ray to discuss their experiences and my experience over this season of Water Underground Talks. Let's start out with your guys' initial plan for these videos.
All right, our plan and inspiration for these Water Underground talks were two things that were really big in our lives last spring. The pandemic was raging. I remember early conversations with Viviana when she was in lockdown in Italy, and really the COVID-19 still hadn't really reached the shores of Vancouver Island yet. And I remember some kind of intense conversations. Then the other thing that was really popping up around the world was the Black Lives Matter protests and demonstrations. So those two things came together in conversations with Viviana and I, and wanting to do something that was positive and an initiative that could include people of Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and women who are often underrepresented in our discipline. So we thought of this idea of Water Underground Talks to bring people from around the world to highlight the topics in groundwater that are interesting to many of us: climate, sustainability, food security, and fundamental groundwater hydrology, and elevate people's voices as a way to bring more diversity to our discipline, and to give a positive message about research and researchers in this challenging time of the pandemic. Viviana, is there anything to add there for you and about your kind of first inspirations on this initiative?
No, I think you described perfectly the topic and the goal that we had in the very beginning. And also, I think the issue of representation, I think, is quite important to stress in one of the main goals that we had. So try to cover as far as possible all the diversity of people that are working in the groundwater domain.
Awesome. Okay, well, the first question I have for you then is, how well do you feel you met these goals?
Well, I think that we did good, I have to say, without being too humble. But I think we managed to meet the goals that we set, and also not only we're really happy with the results, but also we had nice feedback from all the people that we involved, that we interviewed, and also we had a series of people that volunteered or that offered to be interviewed in the next talk in case we're going to have the next season. What about you, Tom?
Yeah, for me, I feel like it was very positive as well. One of our goals, both Viviana and I are both kind of inherently optimistic or positive people, and we wanted to do something positive, and it feels like there was a lot of the response was very enthusiastic from the individual presenters. They felt like it was a really positive um, thing that they were engaged in, and they were really interested in doing, and that it kind of elevated their research and them as scientists a little bit. So that all feels very positive and encouraging. I mean, I think the initial response of how people are watching them and starting to integrate them into the classroom is also really positive as well. So overall, I feel like we kind of met all of our main goals, and it was a really useful, enjoyable initiative so far.
Awesome. Yeah, it's always great to hear the positives, but let's take a little shift for a second. And what did you find then the most challenging about these videos?
Do you want me to start there, Viviana?
Yes.
Yeah, for me, we had a vision of what we wanted these videos to be like, so that they're useful in classrooms, and it took us a while to explain that to different presenters and also to our different partners organizations. So we wanted there to be discussion questions in every video, and we wanted to be really plain language and really graphically rich, so that students and young professionals would be really interested and have this be a useful part of their education in classrooms around the world. So that was challenging, but once we got the first couple recorded in that format, people could kind of see what we wanted to do and what we were doing, and then it was easier for the later recordings to kind of be in that format. And Viviana, what do you think some of the challenges are for you or from your experience?
For me, I think the main challenge was to schedule the talks,
Hmm.
especially because in the beginning, I think we had certain recording plans. So the idea was to have a series of recording quite closer to each other. But then we realized that actually the time was not feasible because people have already many commitments, and probably the pandemic is somehow slowing things down with the Zoom fatigue, as they call. So the fact that we spend a lot of time in video conferences. So we decided to actually extend a bit the time frame of the recording, and this helps a lot. Also taking into account that we are in most cases in three different time zones, and especially for you that you have to wake up really early to meet the time for our late afternoon. And so this from like the technical point of view, like scheduling and kind of pushing people to fix a meeting without being too pushy somehow. And yeah, and also if I can mention at personal level, I think one of the challenges that I had to face personally, which although I'm very happy that we made it, was to uh, how can I say, to overcome the fear of recording somehow, like the
Hmm.
insecurity, like personal insecurity, knowing that the video will be there. So you will think, oh, did I say that correctly? Did I look okay? Which clearly are things that doesn't have specific relevance in science, but make part of
Hmm.
the personality or the insecurity. But yeah, I can tell that helped a lot to the recording the video. So I'm happy also from this learning part.
Yeah, that's thanks for sharing that. I think for me, I think even as a teenager, I realized I had an problem. So I'm always conscious of my umming as I'm giving different talks and videos, and the idea of having a whole series of pre-recorded videos that are on YouTube uh, for a long time possibly is a little bit of a scary idea, and it was useful for me to kind of just get out there and try that, and also it's also just kind of a weird format. We're all just staring into each other's video feeds. I'm in my basement office, and you're in your kitchen, and Aiden's in her apartment, and so it's just kind of a weird format. So I think that was another kind of challenge for everyone, including all of the three of us, but also all the presenters. Just kind of get used to that format, and when we really would rather be sit around having a coffee or a beer, or at a conference or something like that.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. It's interesting to hear that it's not always smooth sailing.
Hmm.
So the next question is, what are some of the key messages that you feel came out of the whole series?
Well, for me, I think one of the key messages is that somehow it's common to all the speakers, all the colleagues that we interviewed, is to follow your passion. If you have an idea, if you have something that you really like, don't be afraid of failing. Just try and go for that. I think we saw a lot of stories of success of people that have very good career. That in many cases costed a lot of effort, but the key thing to everyone is to follow your passion. So if you love something, love doing something, then do it. Go for that.
Yeah, that's great. Another key message that's very related that I really took away, because one of our first questions were for each interview was, what is a part of your personality or your personal interests that make you a better scientist? And a whole series of people said curiosity, and so that's that curiosity that feeds the passion that you're talking about. And that was a key kind of message that came out of a lot of these talks for me, and the yeah, it just was really inspiring to me, because I feel like I'm a curious person. That's what one of the and I know a lot of the students that I work with are very curious. So it's kind of a useful reflection back that a lot of the presenters gave as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. The next question is, what did you learn through this process?
Well, a couple of things I learned. The first was how many amazing scientists there are around the world in groundwater science and sustainability and hydrology. I often work with just a series of people in a few different places around the world, and it was really valuable for me just to see the people all around the world that are doing great work, and just really inspiring to know that that's true, and that there's people around the world that are doing a good job teaching, doing a good job doing research, and caring about groundwater science and groundwater resources around the world. So that was the first really big and useful lesson for me in this. And the second was on a much more personal level, the value of decentering myself a little bit, of taking a little bit more of a back seat and being more in a facilitation and coordination role. I was kind of the chief email coordinator here, and I send hundreds of meeting invites, etc. for this, and that was really valuable for me to take myself out of try to take myself out of the spotlight as a white male scientist and be in more of a supporting role. And it felt really gratifying to kind of be a little bit more in the background. And I'm a little bit shy now, and I feel it's a bit ironic to be back in this video here, but it's nice to do some reflections on the overall series. And Viviana, what about you?
Well, I also learned a lot about communicating and teaching. I think we had very good examples of effective communication and also outreach or science communication per se. But also, I think a lesson that I learned that I think is also important to share because it can be an example for many colleagues outside is to learn how to uplift your colleagues in a sense that academia and science are a very competitive environment, and we may have the tendency to always judge not only data or processes or facts and figures, let's say, but also to judge colleagues based on their achievement, their success. And I think it's normal to be jealous somehow for the achievement of the colleagues, but it's also important to learn how to share the success of the colleagues, because of course we can all cheer up each other and we can all learn one from each other. So I think that could be a good lesson. If you know that someone is doing a great job, instead of being jealous and try to push them back, just to help them to share and get their work known.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Great, thank you. I'm sure all the instructors watching are curious. How can instructors use these videos?
So we originally planned these videos to be used as resources during teaching, especially teaching online, as we are mostly doing at the moment. But, I can also suggest for those who think that their students may not be so familiar with English or maybe not so confident in watching and making comments or on a video and a series of questions in English, you can also use them as homeworks. So give them as a home assignment and then make the comments and exercise in class afterwards. So the good thing of having the video recorded is that you can always watch them more and more time. And I think eventually it will also help students to improve their English.
Yeah, thanks, Viviana. I think it's also important to acknowledge that groundwater is taught at a lot of different levels around the world and in a lot of different disciplines in engineering, geoscience, environmental studies, geography, and other, and many very interdisciplinary programs. So these videos can be used in different ways. They're meant to be very graphically rich. They're meant to have those questions that feed good discussions in class and to be in plain language. So they're hopefully be able to be used in a variety of different ways. I've already been experimenting with using the recordings in my class over the last few months, and it's been really positive. Everyone is just really happy to see somebody other than Tom. They get really sick of, and they really value and appreciate hearing from someone from India or China or California. And those are the first videos that kind of came out, and I'm sure they'll love seeing many of the other videos as well. And I think it's been really positive for the students, and to bring these different topics and different people, and to show the students the kind of more personal side that we talked about earlier, that people are just curious, and to give students other examples of how they can be in a professional setting, I think is a very valuable aspect that I've heard of from students, and I hope other students around the world will benefit in those ways.
Yeah,
Also,
absolutely.
something is that talking about diversity, I think it shows, especially in some parts of the world, that some disciplines are still male dominated, and especially in academia. There is a full world of different people with also different background and different uh, origin, that they are doing great jobs. So I think it's also a good example of diversification.
Absolutely. Okay, well, talking about lessons learned, what would you do differently if you were to do this again? And will there be a season 2?
Well, I can start saying that, if Tom allows me, that we are planning to do a season 2, that we're really happy to have that. From my side, I think I will improve the lighting aspects probably. I need to learn more about how to, or probably buy some lights. And yeah, some technical aspects probably in the recordings. What about you, Tom?
Yeah, one other thing we've talked about is doing a better job at crowdsourcing nominations. So we want to, if we do this again, we want to encourage a broad, diverse set of presenters as we did this year, but even more broad, and people we don't know and people we haven't worked with. I think it's also really useful to kind of conclude with that this was just an idea that we started with, that you at a very meta level, just to follow your passions, and this was an idea that Viviana and I had over a Zoom call and over some emails, and we just kind of fed this, and we had very little kind of technical support. Aiden has been helping us immensely, but we didn't have any magic professional videographers or script writers or pedagogic assistants telling us how to design all this. These were just ideas that we thought was a good idea and something positive that we wanted to put out in the world. So we hope that it's useful and that other people will see value and learn from the videos and maybe the initiative itself.
Yeah, another message to share probably is in line with what you say, that we started from zero. We also had a great help in the beginning with the graphics by Stefan Stipman from iGraph. But yeah, apart from that, we had, as you say, Aiden, that really was fundamental for the project. But even if we started without being professional in recording videos, in editing, I think it's important to share the message that if you have an idea that you think is worth it, that you feel it can improve or can give some nice messages, just go for that and try. And don't be afraid that even if the quality is not 100% perfect or professional, then the message is there. So there's always space to improve. So it's what we aim to have for the next seasons.
Should we end with a very anticlimactic digital high five? All right, good job everyone on season 1.
Thank you so much to both of you for sharing. I think it's very valuable to hear your experiences throughout this process. And we'll see you soon for season 2.
All right, thank you, Aiden and Viviana. It was a wonderful, fun experience, and I'm glad we did it.
Same for me. Thank you both. And thank everybody for watching.